Area 4B.
To understand,
You gotta go grind.
women do what you allow them to do, and vice versa with the women. A man gonna do what you allow him to do, and if you don't know your worth, you'll put up with that bullshit. But when you know your worth and you know you don't have to put up with it, you ain't gonna put up with it.
The girl was like, well, if I decide I want to wear a string bikini, to the beach and all that, I don't deserve to be harassed. And if you got a problem with that as my man, that's a problem. He was like, look, I'm not, like, you shouldn't be harassed. You're right. You shouldn't be harassed. However, they got creeps out there. Period. There are creeps out there. And so you have to be mindful. He's like, I'm not worried about my woman per se. She fine and she putting it out. Okay, cool. However, they gonna have somebody that's gonna disrespect that boundary. They gonna have somebody that's gonna do something to handle because they don't have the respect.
Right.
That's who I'm looking out for. That's who I'm afraid of you attracting, right? And stuff. And so that's real talk. Like, you're going to attract the creeps with that. A woman is tight because she's nervous. It's a muscle. So if I'm nervous and I'm not comfortable, then it's gonna be tight. That don't mean necessarily that it was just
preach my thumbnail, cause when you're loosing like that, you wanna know what we doing? We getting ready to orgasm. It's called bottoming out. We're letting that bottom drop so you can hit what we need you to hit, so we can get what we want. If you notice, every time before the orgasm, it goes loose. Pay attention. Before her orgasm, not your orgasm is tight because she's working for you. Her orgasm is loose every time. She don't squeeze during the orgasm. She squeezes after the orgasm because she's trying to stop. It's a reflex after. And I'm sorry, y'all not moving, shaking. I got the phone in my hand. But that's how I keep my class. That's how it works.
There are some decent women out there that may have kids that are able to hold it down for themselves and still be able to accept a man into their lives in a man role. So
see, the thing is, when you just say you need a woman that's holding it down by herself, this is the problem right here. In today, in the 21st century, a lot of women, they don't want to have no damn discipline. They don't want no man to come in and tell them what to do. They don't want to follow no rules. They want to sit there and say they want a strong man. As soon as that man show up and start trying to lay down structure and foundation, they flee. Oh, you trying to boss me around. You trying to tell me what to do. All this nonsense. You want me to be submissive. I ain't no slave.
No, Rick,
all this goofy shit.
You're narcissistic. That's the new word.
Yeah, that or toxic masculinity. All these other shaming tactics they got trying to do. Hate women.
What's happening?
What up?
What you doing?
Welcome to another episode. Speak on It podcast, season 2. And we got something exciting tonight. It's going to be hosted by Chanel, the no bullshit therapist, the no BS therapist. You got a segment going. Normally I do my news, but this her night. So we're going to get it rolling.
Yeah.
And I see we got a special guest in the building. State your name and where they can find you at.
Fred. That's my brother. Hello, that's my real brother.
Everybody. What's up, Fred? Tell us what you do, where you from, and where we can find you at.
Currently, I'm in Dallas, McKinney, Texas. Originally from New Orleans, born and raised. I work finance, just a regular guy doing my thing. Some opinions. Appreciate you inviting me on the podcast. Just got a lot to talk about, man. See what we can do here, man. Help some people solve their problems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she hit a deep topic tonight. So I'm gonna sit back and take notes because she hit me on this a long time ago, and I didn't know where mine came from, and she hit me on it. I was wondering when she was gonna hit somebody else with it. So I'm excited about this one. So yeah, I'm just gonna let you kind of run things. I'm gonna be in the background working, and you do your thing.
Word.
Yeah.
Austin still coming
I
on?
gotta adjust my camera too, so when I come back, I'm gonna
you gonna be straight in? Okay.
yeah.
Well, everybody that's out there, welcome. This is Chanel Baptiste, your favorite no bullshit therapist and mental wealth coach. And tonight on the Speak On It, we're gonna talk about daddy and mama trauma because we all got a little bit of some of that. And it kind of started out. My cousin sister, my ex-cousin sister-in-law, made a post that kind of got me. And Black, put that post up for me. That first one I sent you.
All right.
And it wasn't that the post was wrong per se. It just made me feel some type of way because it was telling the truth, but it was kind of telling the truth in a way that didn't make me feel good. All of you blaming your parents for your trauma need to realize most of them did their very best, and you need to remember all of this when your children turn around and say how you effed them up. Give your parents grace. They are human and could not have possibly tended to your every need at all times. Instead of calling it trauma, call it a bad memory or experience, and correct whatever destructive coping mechanisms you use to get through it. The question is, all of the things in our lives, good or bad, why do we choose to focus on what we lack instead of what we had? There are people dealing with real shit. That's what that got me a little bit in the heart. You not being able to go to that party with your friends in 1982 did not destroy your life. Every bad memory is not trauma triggering. Take it down. So I had a response to that. Then, and that was hard to read because the truth of the matter is, yeah, they are human. All our parents are human, and they had their own stuff and all that kind of stuff. My issue with the post actually was lack of accountability for the parent, right? And it was kind of dismissive to me. It was dismissive because my shit ain't your shit, and your shit ain't my shit. And who are you to tell me what my shit is and what's traumatic to me? And part of my response, I sent, I kind of addressed the fact that, and I used that very same thing. If your mama didn't let you go to the party in 1982 with your friends, it's not the event in itself. It's the belief system that we attach to that event. Maybe mama don't never let me go nowhere. Maybe I always got to stay home and watch these kids. Maybe that there was something else underlying that thing, and we have to be able to acknowledge that. Big Fred here, his mama and my mama are sisters, and so we understand that trauma intimately between each other and all that. And so Fred called me when we talked about it. I invited Nasara on and I sent her the link. So if you out there and you looking and you listening, you can hop on if you want. But because I really thought it garnered some discussion, and it's a continuous discussion that has to be had. And I realized while I was, doing my research and looking up videos for the show that I got triggered. And I've forgiven my mama. I love my mama. I ain't mad with her no more and all that. But looking through those reels and listening to other people's experiences and stuff brought all that stuff right back up for me, which means it's still sitting under there, right? I'm okay. I'm living good. I'm cool, but it still hurt. Do you have any comments you want to jump in on, Fred?
I really, like I said, me and you talked about that, and it was the same thing. My mom and dad, they had me when they was young. And when I say young, I mean dad
Young.
19,
Right.
mom 16.
Mm-hmm.
They got married young. They got divorced young. They didn't really have no idea what they was doing. I mean, she got pregnant. They got married. That's how it was in the early 60s.
Right.
I had forgiven my mother for a lot of stuff. That post kind of triggered me too because it brought up some issues, real issues that I thought I had kind of tucked away in the mental drawer.
Right.
It was just me and my brother for a long time. My mom worked all the time. Well, she worked all the time, and it was times we was an adult.
Right.
It was times the water wasn't on.
Right.
Didn't really have a whole lot to eat.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that she couldn't ask for help. She kind of didn't.
See?
She kind of didn't because her mom, my grandmother, they didn't really get along.
Right.
She left angry.
Right.
She left angry. So then when that got all straightened and me and my brother got to the age where we was pretty much taking care of ourselves, boom, here come my little sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I pretty much raised those two from 12.
Right.
Yeah, from 12 all the way up till I left the city.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, when I really think about it now, I didn't leave the city to kind of better myself.
Come on.
I left the city because I didn't want that responsibility.
Thank you, dog. Because I ran off to college.
It was like, I went to school to better myself. Yeah, but I didn't want that responsibility.
Yeah.
I was a kid, but I also understood later on that she worked 12 hours a day.
Right.
The only time we saw was when she came home and we was going to bed, and when we woke up to go to school. Right. We came home, she was gone.
Right.
So I get it. But I kind of held a resentment because I didn't really enjoy that 12 to 18 years span.
Right.
Because I was being a parent.
It was parentified.
Yeah.
Right.
Cooking breakfast, cooking dinner, changing diapers.
Yeah.
Get out of school, go to school all day, get out of school, go pick your sister up from daycare, go home. I was a real life single parent.
Yeah, exactly.
At 14, 15 years old.
Exactly. And I was doing it ever since my mama got divorced. So I was like 8, having to figure it out.
Even though I understood the post, I understood where she was coming from with the post, but it was like you can't lump all of that into just one thing. Because for some people, like I don't know what that part of her life was like. Right. She may not have to do that. And
that's what I was wondering too, which is why I was trying to invite her on, because I was like, I need to know, like what her viewpoint was at that part of her life or whatever. I don't know, like, her mama could have been able to provide, and I don't know, that deeply, what the background is, but I did run across somebody on TikTok last night that was like, even though I came from a household that, my needs were met, right? But then there's these other subtle traumas that people don't think about, of the fact that if a child is taken care of too well, because, me and you talk all the time about how trauma give you skills. You know what I'm saying? I could pack a truck like nobody's business, because we was moving every 6 months, and stuff. But and she was kind of talking about how, when you can, it'd be in the opposite direction too, where you don't teach them anything because you're trying to make sure all of their needs are met. So then they don't learn. That's a trauma in itself too. Now I'm out here in these streets, so I don't know how to take care of myself. And
I feel like, and it's crazy because I feel like I've kind of done that somewhat to my kids.
Yeah.
I tried so hard to like make sure they had everything. To where is now when they do something and it's like they have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
And I'm looking at them and I'm like,
I don't understand how you don't know what you're doing.
That's so simple. How did you get into this situation? Like all you had to do was A, B, C. And then I gotta sit back and say, did I really show them how to get from point A to point C? Maybe I showed them A and B, but I didn't get them to the end.
Right. But I think that's the difference though with our parenting too. Like, because again, I'm an enabler. I have enabled the hell out of my kids, right? And I'm still suffering for it. So I gotta you need to take care of your business, right? And stuff. But I find that, when we mess up now, because again, me and you call each other all the time, like, okay, so parenting question, you think I was wrong? Should I go back and apologize? Did I do the right thing? And all that. So, and because, we both had a similar experience and stuff like that. So we'll call and be like, I messed up. Right. And we're willing to go to our kids and be like, yo, okay, I know I was fussing at you about not getting from point A to point D, but I realized I didn't show you B and C. So that's why you lost. So let's do this thing again. Right. And so I think what was missing again from that post was the accountability. Right. Because we all messed up and we understand our parents' circumstances. You know what I'm saying? Because it was hard for my mama too, single parent and 3 kids and, and all that. And like, Auntie, she was working, and for me too, because your mama didn't get into substances, mine did, and stuff like that. And so at every event, my mama, the drunk auntie, all of y'all like, hey, auntie, yeah. I'm like, here she go again.
Right. Because unfortunately, you got to go home and deal with that.
Yeah. Or I got to drive us home at 12 years old. You know what I'm saying? Because, everybody else think it's cool that I can drive at 12. I'm like, I got to drive my drunk mama home so she get there safe. That shouldn't have been my responsibility. Right. And stuff. And so, again, in the moment, it's cool because I'm like, I'm 12 because I can drive because I would drive my mom home and all that. Hindsight is like, no, you was 12 and you was driving your mama home. All of y'all still could have died,
Exactly.
And again, that's irresponsibility. Wherever we was at, we should have stayed the night, right? And stuff like that. And so it's, being able to stop and say, hey, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry without excuses. And I think is the thing, because a lot of the clips that I have been finding is the people that I talk to and some of my clients is, well, she say she's sorry, but there's a caveat. But because I didn't get what I needed, and my parents, I was sleeping on the floor, or and they're like, okay, I get it, but that don't negate the damage that you did by doing this particular thing. I'm trying to tell you, right? And with generations before us too, like we can't say nothing. You can't say nothing. Like, who you talking to? Like, you don't correct me because I'm the grown person. I know I hit you upside the head with a brick, and I know it hurt, but you shouldn't have made me do that.
Do it exactly. I was just about to say that. I've never, our generation never got an apology for anything. Never. It was just like you said a minute ago. You shouldn't have made me do it.
Yeah, it's your fault that I did.
I didn't make you pick up that broom and crack me across my back. You chose to do that. Was the choice. You chose to do that.
Could have walked away. you know, you could have did 1,000 other things than grab a rope.
Yeah. And it's like I said before to somebody. We might have talked about it, but I know I said it before in a conversation with somebody. A lot of times, and even now, but the thing I like the most about this generation is they're more vocal.
Yes.
Than we were more vocal than our parents' generation.
Right.
Our kids were more vocal, and now this generation, my youngest, his generation is way more vocal now. Before they put up, because I mean, you got to think about it when you really look at it in the whole context. I was born in 1968.
Right.
That was 2 years. That was what 60. The Civil Rights Act had just went into effect.
Right. I'm about to say Civil Rights time.
I still remember riding on a dark brown, light brown bus, and you could still see the holes on the side of the bus where the cage was.
Wow.
To where black people had to sit in the back. A lot of people, when I tell them that, I think they kind of get a context of like
how close that is in time, right?
Yeah, it changed.
It wasn't that long ago.
It really didn't change. It didn't change. So our parents put up with a lot of BS.
Right.
And then you come home, unfortunately, they can't go off on their boss. They can't go off on the white guy that's over there making $10 more than they making, and they're doing the same job. Unfortunately, every little thing that we do that pisses them off, we kind of caught it.
Yeah.
And was that right? Hell no, that wasn't right.
Yeah.
And even though a lot of people may not think it, they knew it wasn't right, but they didn't know how to apologize.
Exactly. And they didn't know how to apologize so much. Like my mama passed that on to me because I took a long time to learn how to apologize. Anybody apologize to me, you know, and stuff. Because when I was married, it was like, no, you don't never apologize. I'm like, what you mean? I don't know what you're talking about, you know. But I stopped and started paying attention. Like, oh wait, I don't apologize, you know. And you know, black mama's apology. You want some eat? You know, that's all you got. You got a gesture of some sort.
Right.
I'm going to the store. You need something? Like you just beat my ass and bring me a Snicker. You know? So they didn't know. You're right. They didn't know how. Right. And I can give 1,000 pounds of grace for not knowing how, because you can't do what you don't know how to do. Right. That's still, again, don't let them off the hook.
No.
Even if you don't know, then you go, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't know, and I didn't mean to do that to you. you know, and stuff like that. I mean,
I still remember the first time I apologized to my oldest son. He was shocked. Was
it hard?
Actually, no, it wasn't, because I sat there and I realized I felt like crap after I went off on him. And I went off on him because what he did, it wasn't even that big. Actually, I could have just went, boy, get out my face. And that would have been the end of it. But something happened at work. And I wanted to tell my boss, kiss my ass, I'm out of here. But at the time, I couldn't. So when I got home and it was something that I asked them to do, they didn't do it. And I went ballistic. And then I had to realize that wasn't that big of a deal. I went off on them because I couldn't go off on this other dude. So then I set them down and I apologized. And it was easy. And then at that point, what I started doing at that point was actually giving my kids the opportunity to say what was on their mind. As long as we're not cursing, you gotta find a new word. But just nothing gonna happen to you. Tell me how you really feel. And we avoided a whole lot of conversations and unnecessary BS that way.
Right.
But no, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was because I like went back and forth like 4 or 5 times because it didn't feel right.
Right.
It didn't feel like I'm the parent. Why I gotta apologize?
Yeah, because that was instilling us, right? If you grown, you pay all the bills. What you apologizing for? You know?
But I had to look at it. If this was another adult and I did another adult like that, I would go back and apologize.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's a matter of seeing them as human. You know? And I think that was a barrier too for our parents, and that, you know, and again, this is an issue that comes from slavery, where you're seen as property, right? And if Black people are seen as property, and that's what we learn through all of these years, then when we have children, because the children originally was property of the master, so if we free now, then these children must be my property, because that's how we're conditioned, right?
Right.
If you belong to me, then I can do whatever I want to you, you know, and I can beat your ass as much as I want to, you know, and stuff like that. And then I can tell you what to do. You ain't taking care of nothing around here. You know, I'm big, you small, you know, and even when you big, you small, because it don't make you feel small, you know, and stuff. So again, it's all conditioned and learned behavior. But just like you said, the fact that they knew that it was wrong, but didn't feel like they had the power to, not even that they didn't have the power. I think it would have been, they felt like it was usurping their power. It was like, I will give up my power if I apologize, but not realizing that the power is in the apology.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because that would have made a big difference. I would have been a way better kid.
Oh, yeah.
If she would have just apologized.
Yeah, that's it.
Because now, with an apology, now I feel real bad. Now it's like, dang, man. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example.
Okay.
I took $20 out of Percy's wallet one day. Now,
that's our uncle, y'all.
No, Papa.
Oh, Papa. Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
You big bad.
Exactly. Exactly. This is I don't.
You said I automatically thought it was uncle.
Yeah. No, it was the one that nobody should ever do anything to.
Thank you.
Okay. This guy will give, if you need $1, and if all he got is 50 cents, he'll give you 50 cents.
Yeah, 50 cents. Yep.
Now I took it. He figured it out. I mean, it wasn't that hard to figure out. At the time, it was only 3 of us in the house, me, him, and Shirley. Shirley ain't going in his wallet, so it was me. He didn't yell. He didn't get mad, because I was ready, I was ready for the whipping and all of that. He told me he was disappointed and told me not to come back to the house.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, I never told you this story.
You ain't never told me that story.
Yeah. That, it's crazy, because I still feel like crap to this day whenever I tell that story.
You feel it right now. Why are you telling it?
Yes, because I didn't have that to do. Right. If I'd have needed $20, he'd have gave me $20. No question that. Right. He wouldn't even ask what I needed it for.
Because that wasn't Papa.
But if I did something like with my mama, it didn't faze me at all, because I already knew what was going to happen. She was going to fuss. She was going to cuss me out. I was going to get a whipping, and that was going to be the end of it.
Yeah. That's drastically different.
Yeah.
Drastically different. And I talk to parents now who try to still adopt the old school and the favorite phrase, I got whooping when I was a kid and I grew up fine.
No, you didn't.
Are you okay?
You didn't.
You're not okay.
If I can say something on that, that's a damn lie.
It's a damn lie.
You didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't grow up. I can count on my hand how many whippings I got that I deserved.
Right. Come on. Yeah.
I can't count the ones that I didn't deserve that just literally came out of nowhere. Like I left a towel balled up on on the counter and that deserved a smack across the head. No,
Mhm. No, it deserved pick
damn
up the
towel.
towel, Fred.
Yeah.
I mean, you can even
So
go to your
no,
cuss word and pick up the damn towel, Fred. Like,
I mean that's an excuse that we use for this generation to just to try and say why we think the kids now are worse
you're right.
than we were when we were kids.
Hmm.
But what I like to remind a lot of people is that when we were kids, that generation was saying we were worse than what they were.
Exactly. Exactly. Period. You know, and it ain't necessarily that they're worse. I think it's just a different time. It's a
And I,
different time.
and I think too a part of that post that I looked at when she said about the when your kids come back to you and tell you how you effed up
F
their
them up.
life.
Yeah. Hmm.
I didn't know where to go with that because I'm like, it kind of went back to what you were saying a minute ago. How like there's no accountability. Because if my kids come back to me and be like, Dad, you fucked up my life. Okay, tell
How?
me how. How did I mess up your life?
Right. Right. I'm gonna
If
want to
if
know the details of the situation. Right. You know. What's up, Huck?
and oh, he
Going
got
on?
muted.
Hey. That my big brother
Afternoon,
Fred.
sir.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, all right.
I was thinking I
But
read baby.
yeah, but I mean, it's like I think she should have added more to that.
I
Cause
think so.
like, what's your definition of trauma?
Right. I wanted that too.
I mean, what's your definition of trauma? I remember not being able to go to parties.
Hmm.
It wasn't no big deal to me.
Right.
But when I couldn't go march in the Zulu parade, I
Come on,
was
bro.
super pissed.
Devastated by that one.
Yeah, that was like me almost saying, "Screw you, mom. I'm going anyway." And I'll deal with the consequences when I
I'll
get
take
back.
the ass whooping when I come back.
But I didn't want to ask you what the sun stayed on. But I mean, she kind of left that wide open,
Hmm.
and it's kind of it for me. It kind of just sounded like you know, don't blame your parents. It wasn't
Right.
your parents' fault.
Right. That's what it felt
In
like.
reality, some of it is their fault.
Right. Right. You know, and the thing too is like, because the blame game is a crazy thing to do, right? Because for every action, there's a reaction, right? Anything that happens to me is going to affect me, and then it's going to affect how I behave or how I think or how I feel, right? So fault is not necessarily even the word I want to use. You're still responsible for your behavior, right? You're responsible for your actions, right? Um, whether no matter where they come from, no matter where they come from, and like I said in my response, like, but no, they didn't have the help that we have now. You know what I'm saying? Um, we got good therapists, and we got because black people didn't go to therapy. That's for white people. And stuff like that. Why would we go to therapy? We don't have feelings. We're not allowed to feel, and so there's so much of that already, and that's cool. But just again, I go back to the fact that you said right from wrong, though. Like
Yeah.
when you're causing harm, and so if you love me, why would you be intentional about causing harm? I think just like you and I sit back and go, was that the right thing to do? They had to have had those moments. It's just that the
Yes.
pride gets in the way and won't let you go out there and be like, babe, I'm sorry. And that would have made a
And
world of difference.
and it's kind of like you said, is I don't want to lose my power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a huge thing. For what's the saying? I'm not one of your friends.
Mm.
I'm guilty of saying that myself.
I ain't on your left.
I've told my kids that I'm not one of your who you think you're talking to. I'm not one of your little friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you don't want them when they're younger. You don't want them to think, oh, we're equal.
Right.
Well, guess what? My daughter's 31 years old with 2 kids. Guess what? We're equal.
Yeah.
We equal.
Yeah.
I see my grandkids when I want to get them or when they come over. She buy their food. She buy their clothes. She pay the bills where they live at to take care of them to make sure they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
She doing the same thing me and my wife did when she was younger.
Right.
If that's not equal, I don't know what equal is.
Right.
So you know what I have to do?
Mm.
Treat her as an equal.
Thank you. Okay. And that's always been my policy too. I'm like, once I'm no longer taking care of you, you know, you can get it how you feel on your own, right? And you're not dependent upon me, then I consider you equal. And I used to tell Nate that all the time. I was like, do that because I just want us to be friends. I said, when I no longer have to provide for you in that way, we could be friends. We can be friends.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
My youngest, Tyrese, last week, I'm a young adult. I'm a young man. And I'm like, dude, I'm still paying for your haircuts.
That was good.
I'm still paying for your haircuts. When I pick you up from school and come home on the weekend, you still asking me to stop at Wendy's to buy you something to eat. We not equal. We not equal. When you start paying for all of you, and he's in school, so I'm not expecting him to go out and handle everything. But I can give you getting grown respect when you can start taking care of the little stuff.
Exactly.
And for me, that's how that worked. And I talk to a lot of people, especially younger parents, that I have to remind them that, you know, my mom don't treat me like an adult. What kind of adult stuff you doing? I got a job.
Right.
Okay, my daughter had a job when she was in high school.
Right.
She still wasn't an adult.
Right.
You know, I mean, you living in your mama's house. You paying half of the bills? No. You doing this? No.
You at least paying a light bill. Anything.
Bill? No. Most of them not doing nothing. Yeah, most of them not doing nothing. They're not even paying their own car insurance. So, like, come on. I pay my car note. Well, that's because you need a car to get back and forth to work.
Right.
You'll be dumb not to do that. I'm like, your parents will treat you like an equal when you start doing that kind of equal stuff.
Exactly.
You don't have to pay every bill in the house, but show me you're adult enough to say, hey, I got that.
Right.
I use water. Let me pay the water bill.
Pay the water bill.
You know, I'm not expecting you to pay half the mortgage. It's my mortgage. But you can jump on that water bill and that gas bill because you cook every day and you watching TV on the regular and using my internet. You can pay that bill.
Can you at least pay the Hulu bill, like something?
And I mean, it's like I explained to this one guy. I was telling him, it's like you want your parents to treat you like an adult. Don't wait for them to ask you to do something. You know it needs to be done. You're making a choice. Like I tell people all the time, everybody makes choices. It's not something like, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen. Well, if your car note was 60 days past due, and if they tell you if you miss one more month, we're going to repo your car, and you don't pay that car note, you made the choice not to pay it. So don't be sitting at home boohooing and crying because when you woke up in the morning, your car was gone. You made a choice not to pay the bill because you put something over your car note.
That's right.
And you know, now you're buying a junk car with 25% interest rate. It's a choice. I told him, like, don't wait. Like, don't wait.
Right.
Just go do it. Say, hey, mom, what bills can I pay?
Yeah.
And if you ask us that, we'll never give you the highest bill.
Never. Not never.
We'll never give you. We'll give you the cheapest ones we got, the water bill and usually the gas bill, depending on where you live.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them don't. A lot of them don't. They just don't.
Right.
They wait till Mad Day come and mom or dad or both broke.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask you, hey, I need $150 for that bill. Well, I need to give you $150. And then that's when everything go downhill from there.
You know, one thing that I read from Elon Musk, he said, charge your kids rent $500 a month, but put it in a savings pool.
Yeah. So
and then, so then when they do get ready to move out, they have money saved up. So they have no excuses not to be grown, carry on with their lives, and stop being dependent on mom and dad so much. But you have to show your kids how to be responsible.
Right.
But the thing is, are you a responsible adult, or were you a responsible adult? How did you learn responsibility? Did you ever learn responsibility? So those are the things that can carry on over to a child escaping dad and mama drama. You know, so, and then when you all were talking about being friends with your kids, so my middle son, people are always telling me, hey, you know, you can't be friends with your son. You can't be friends with your kid. I was like, why not? I don't want him to fear me if I'm his friend. And as long as he knows the difference and the boundaries where friendship ends and parenting starts, then I don't see an issue with it. As long as he don't cross those boundaries. Because if I'm his friend, he's gonna come to me with everything that's going on. I don't ever have to wonder. So, and that's still true to today. You know, he stays with his mom. You know, but he comes to me for all of his issues, problems, and concerns. He's a grown adult, has a job, shares bills with his mom. You know, so, but he still comes to me for advice, tell me his issues, problems, and concerns. And that's from rearing him as a child where we had a friendship, but he still respected me as his parent.
Right.
And that's the big thing. And I got a lot of my peers my age they've got a huge problem with that. My oldest son, we talk at least 4 or 5 times a month. Might be more than that. He'll just call me when he go on break at lunch. Just talk about dumb stuff. And like, it's not even nothing important. I'll be like, man, I'm at work. And then I'm ended up taking 15 minutes off of work to talk to him. My youngest son, Tyrese, me and him, my wife always say we conspiring against her. We ain't really conspiring against her, but we're that tight. We're that tight. I've got a relationship with my kids and my stepkids because I bonded with them on stuff that they like. And we have like it's a friendship. But I can honestly say none of them ever crossed that line to where they figured, oh, I can just do whatever. They knew the boundaries.
Right.
They knew the boundaries.
I mean, and kids will push, right? They'll push a little to try to see where the boundary is. But if you set that boundary and reinforce that boundary every time they push, they'll stop. They're okay with this. As far as I
mean, who pushed the boundary? My oldest son did. Oh, I'll never forget it. He was staying with his grandmother in the country. Didn't want to come home. Like he was messing up, so I was like, come on, you got to come back home. Behind some girl. I ain't going nowhere. You can't make me go. I jacked him up against a wall. I had his feet dangling off the ground. My nephew walked over like, come on, Uncle Fred, you don't want to do that. I said, boy, you better get away from here. He didn't say a word. He knew at that point. The second time he did it, we were all at home. again, it's always behind a girl. And he wanted to fight. He really wanted to fight. And I was like, okay, let's go. I let him walk out the door first. Yes, I punched him right in the back of his head. And while he was stumbling to the ground, it was just boom, 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 boom. I'm like, you still want to fight? He's on the ground. No, I'm sorry. I'm good. Okay. And we never had an issue after that. So yeah, they do push. And I'm not advocating
Did
go
you
out.
apologize to him for busting him upside his head?
No, he didn't get no apology.
That creates trauma though, right?
So again, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like we do the same.
That created trauma.
It's easy for us to do the same stuff.
Yeah, but actually, it's funny. We talked about that a month ago, and he said, "Dad, you know what? You never really whipped us or none of that. I talk him to death." And he said he still remembered that. He was telling somebody that, and he said, "You know what? I earned that." He's like, "You could have really boxed me up if you wanted to." That was love taps that I gave, but he was like, because I should have never challenged you like that in the first place. You my dad. You wasn't doing nothing because the girl ended up being a bum anyway. Almost got him locked up behind some dumb stuff. But I get it. He was 16. He thought he was in love.
And,
might have got him something the day before. I don't know.
You know what I mean? My youngest had 2 fights, and I'm like, I ain't never think I'd be fighting my kid, but like, and when we talk about it now, we can laugh about it. She was like, yeah, I was losing my mind. Because again, I didn't hit my kids. I did, like, you had to be really doing something crazy for me to put my hands on you. I'm great at emotionally disconnecting, and I even had to correct that because when they was in therapy, they was like, the therapist coming to me like, okay, so here's the thing, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to emotionally disconnect, but like, we got to do something because they're hurting me, right? Yeah. And so they had to be some medium or so, but I did talk to them and, okay, we need to we're going to have family therapy because y'all going to stop this and or I'm going to start acting like Cheryl, and I don't want to act like Cheryl. You're making me feel like I want to hit somebody, and stuff. And if I start getting into that Cheryl spirit, and stuff like that, where I want to scream and yell and hit or throw things or whatever and all that, that's still traumatic for me because I'm becoming my mama. I don't want to be like that,
Right. But like I 100% agree with Austin, whereas some parents, they want their kids they want them to have that fear. I never wanted that because I remember a time when I feared my mother, and that wasn't cool because I didn't feel like I could go to her with anything. Right. And that's where a lot of stuff happened, and you find out your kid crackhead. Well, I couldn't come talk to you because I was always scared. I never wanted that because I want you to be able to tell me anything, even if it sounds like the stupidest thing you ever said in your life. Right. Come tell me. My oldest, little Fred, will call me about anything. Dad, I'm $5 short on light bill. He never asked me for $5. He's always trying to figure out a way to get it. See? And I love him for that.
You want to give it to him because
which makes me cash app him $10 instead of $5. Right. But and then one time he needed $300. I sent it to him after he couldn't figure it out. He figured it out. He sent it back to me with a little note. I figured it out. And I'm like, see, that's why you're at the top of the wheel, son.
Yes, that's right.
But I feel I heard you say the friends, I think a lot of us, our generation, are not setting boundaries with the youth. That's what's contributing to more crime, more dropouts. It's not fear. They're just being friends to me from what I see. They're being friends with them and they're not setting boundaries. Like everyone on the panel said, there's boundaries. We're friends. You can talk to me and everything, but they respect. It's respect. It's not, instead of fear, you're replacing fear with respect.
Right.
So they respect you and they know not to overstep the bounds.
Right.
But a lot of our generation, those kids are out there helping pay bills. They out there selling dope. The girls out there hustling guys. They hosting card games or whatever. But the kids are contributing to the household. They're smoking weed with them. They're drinking with them. So that respect level is where that child is seeing them as their equal, because they're not setting that boundary like you stated earlier, like Fred stated earlier, and you always, that's Chanel is king boundaries. She taught me what boundaries really work. I thought I'm just setting rules. You ain't gonna do this. She said, no, you have boundaries. Those are called boundaries. And so, so when you break those boundaries or overstep those boundaries, that's where the problem is. But a lot of the parents can't say nothing to the child because the child is helping pay rent. The child is helping keep the lights on.
Well, what age range are we talking about? When you
16,
you say that?
16.
Yeah.
16.
There's still a level, there's still some difference because again, I mean, I was taking care of my mom.
They don't respect their parents.
I went to work and I brought my mama my money, right? And stuff. So I still was taking care of my household, but because there was again that fear, you know, I'm like,
you had a little fear.
I better not come in here and say I pay the bills because I'm gonna get the hell knocked out of me, right?
The kids of today don't have that respect / love fear for the parent. Did they pay bills in your house? They help keep the lights on, they help pay rent. If you say, hey, I need you in the house at 12 o'clock, they're going to look at you like 12 o'clock. What you mean? Shit, I pay bills around. That's how the new generation is. I've seen it. I've heard it. I've been on the phone. I've been sitting in the living room and heard the child say that at 16, 17 years old, still living with mom and dad, that's going to say, I'm the reason that we still in this apartment. And I'm like, you know, and you letting them say that? Well, I did get them to pay the rent last month. I'm like, they don't respect the parents, and that's why they're fighting them. They're killing them. There's more kids killing the parents now. They don't respect. They see them as another person. Right. You know. No respect.
A matter of that lack of. There's a lack of connection, appropriate connection there, right?
No communication with them.
As scared as I was of my mama, like, you know, I was still bonded to her. You know what I'm saying?
And you make it known, just like Fred said, he made it known. I'm not your friend, you know. And at this aspect, you know, I always say, you're not going to talk to me like you talk to your friend.
I'll be friendly.
I'm friendly, but you're not going to talk to me like you talk to your friends. And you have to stress that and mean that. And when they do it again, you got to catch that. You can't just say that today and then 2 weeks they call you a punk ass nigga and you don't say nothing. You be like, oh, whatever, boy. You can't do that because it's going to get worse and worse and worse. They're going to treat you like they treat the buddy that picks them up and take them to the liquor store. I mean,
well, see, here's the thing. When you're being friends with your kids, that doesn't mean that you go out, you smoke with them,
right?
Drink with them, exactly. You party with them, you hang with them.
Many of them do.
Yeah, but what you do as a friend, a parent friend, is give them a safe space to express whatever they need.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, so that's what you do as a parent that has their kid as a friend.
Right. It's a safe space.
But like I say, they don't. A lot of them don't do that, and especially if they let the kids pay that bill, that let that child pay a bill.
Yeah.
The rent, they chest poked out. I paid rent. She can't tell. She good. Then they inviting their friends in the house all times of night. Oh, she good. I paid rent. You know, that's just I see it. You know, and we're not. They're not setting boundaries. The bottom line, they don't set boundaries. They think friends mean smoking weed with them, drinking with them. They come in when they want to. They hook them up with their girlfriends or boyfriends, cousins, sister, brothers, daddies, and it's no control. And they drop, like I said, they're dropping out of school, they get pregnant, they going to jail, they killing them, so they killing each other. And that's why. Remove the ass whooping.
There's a break of respect right there, though. If you aren't paying your rent and providing for that kid, and then that kid starts providing for you in such a way, and you out here, you know, I mean, you're not being a parent, right?
Yeah.
So you can't be respected as a parent if you're not being a parent. You know?
And that's sad. Because even if our parents, the way we were raised, whether it was fear or not, if our parent wasn't being a parent, we still respected that parent. We didn't give a damn. You my parent, you mom, your dad. But the new generation, man, I'll beat my dad up. You know, I ain't messed up by him. F him. You know, that's what they're saying. F mom. We didn't dare to say that. We may have thought something close to it, but we didn't say it with a friend, a neighbor, a cousin, you know, we just didn't say that. We weren't allowed to say that.
Why would you say that out loud?
But Black's right, but I can answer that question. Why it is.
Why?
Okay. Our generation, I'll go all the way up to our kids. Like our kids, like you said, all our kids are grown. So they're millennial kids.
Okay.
We had family structure.
That's true.
When I say family structure, you had mom, you had your aunties, your uncles, your grandfather, your grandmother. All of them were on the same page.
Right.
If, let's say, Austin cursed out his dad, you're not just going to get it from dad. You're going to get it from dad, then you're going to get it from mom, then you're going to get it from Uncle Thomas, and you're going to get it from Auntie Shirley, you're going to get it from grandma, you're going to get it from grandpa. It's going to go all the way down. You know, if I do this, again, with the decisions, if I do this, I got to deal with all of this.
17 people. Right.
What's happening now, mom's 28, grandma in her 40s,
32.
She don't really want to be grandma because I've heard them. They said, don't be calling me grandma.
I'm grandma.
And it's like nobody wants to get involved.
Right.
If your kid is bad, I'm not dealing with that. That's your kid. You deal with it.
But the attitude with them folks too, though, is you can't deal with it because I don't want you hitting my kid. I don't want you talking to my kid. Don't tell my kid nothing. You know, and so there was that divide of people who was like, you can't tell my kid nothing. You know, because I just saw somebody sent me it's a TikTok where this guy's like, you know, who let Generation X off the hook? And so there's this series of all these people talking about, you know, like don't mess with Gen X, right? And so this guy was saying the same thing, like, you know, if I looked at my mama behind her back and nobody saw me, but there's a lady in the store, she saw me look at my mama crazy, and so she getting on me in the store. Then my mama kick my behind. Then I go home, and my daddy kick my behind, and we called the neighborhood, and everybody come over and get a lick. And I just gotta deal. And then I gotta go outside. And I gotta fight somebody. You know, that's our generation. That's us, right? And stuff. So it's just that's how we was living. That's how we was living. You know.
There was a statistic on the news today that said grandparents are no longer dealing with their grandkids. They're choosing not to deal with their grandkids, and you know that kind of causes an issue too, especially if you have some irresponsible parents.
Right.
Now, if the grandparents was irresponsible too, now that's a whole different story.
And
but
that might be part of the problem, though. For real, you saying that, but that's part of the problem is that nobody wants the responsibility of. And I can give our generation before us lots of props on that. And I said it this year, you know, because every year that passed that I'm healing from mom, daddy, mama trauma, right? I come into a new, I'm not mad anymore. I'm not, operating in that hurt or nothing like that. And this year on my mom's death anniversary and all that, I felt I had this wonderful moment of, man, I appreciate my mom so much. Like she did some fucked up shit. She fucked me up in a lot of ways. But I recognize now, like before there was an ADHD diagnosis, my mama helped me with the ADHD issue. My mama saw needs that needed to be met and figured that shit out on my behalf. And I had a moment this year where I was like, you know what? You definitely did your best. It was horrible. Don't get me wrong. It was horrible, but you did your best. And thank you for not throwing me in a damn trash can. You know what I'm saying? Because being young and having a kid and not knowing what was going to happen next and all that, trying to move out your mama house, like all the stuff that came with that and all that, she could have just dumped me, but she hung in there and tried, and so as bad as it is, or bad as it was, and that I can acknowledge the horrible stuff but I can also acknowledge there was good times. And I had a moment too with my youngest where she played like Natalie Cole, This Will Be, right? And I was like, ooh, that was me and my mama jam. And she looked at me and she was like, what you mean that was y'all jam? I said, yeah, we used to get together when that come on, mama put that on. And we would dance and, have a good time and And so now I have this wonderful memory of me and my mama, right? And she was like, I didn't know you had good memories of your mama because every time you talk about her, you say something bad. And I was like, ooh, because they were good memories. They were some. But I was wrapped up in the bad stuff so much. And that's all I would talk about so much that my kids did not have, and she didn't have as much experience as my older child did. My older child got to know my mom a little bit. My baby girl was a Hurricane Katrina baby and stuff. And so she did not get to know my mother. So all she has is my account, right? And my account was all bad. And so I flipped that right then and there. That was a reality check. And so I started being intentional about searching my memory and sharing the good stuff because it's not all bad. It's definitely not all bad, but also teaching her, that even for us, like it's not all good. I've done a lot of good jobs of flipping things and doing something different, but it's not all good. I mess up too and all that. But I think it's a key of seeing the parent as human, seeing them as human being. But human beings also have to have the responsibility of saying, I'm a human being. I messed up. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna do what I can to fix it.
I think it's we remember the bad because it touched and hurt us the most, and it the hurt cuts deeper than a good time, than a smile. You're gonna remember more frowns than you do smiles,
right?
And that's why we tend to dwell on the bad times. That's the first thing that comes up, and then you have to say it wasn't all bad,
right?
But that bad hurt so bad that it's rememberable, and that's what I went through with my trauma because everything was so bad, and then I created this I don't give a fuck attitude to escape the trauma. Right. I carved on the wall. I think I might have been 10 years old. I carved on the wall of our house, fuck it, in my bedroom, laying in my bed, because she made me go to bed or whatever. I got a whipping for something I didn't do. And I was laying in the bed so hurt because I was in a good spirit that day. And I had to go pick a switch, get beat for something I didn't do, then sit to bed. And it was like maybe 12 noon. And so now I got to stay in my bed from 12 noon till dinner
for nothing,
for something I didn't do.
Yeah.
And so torn at that moment. I think it was like a spring break or something. So, everybody outside, the birds chirping, and I'm in the bed for something I didn't do. So I carved on the wall, fuck it, in that house on the wall. And when I dozed off and woke back up to eat supper, that was my attitude from that day. From 10 years old on, I didn't give about nothing, and nobody, nothing, and that's how I escaped. So when people betray me and stuff, I'm expecting it. Yeah. I hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, because that's how I was taught from 10 years old. Moving forward, I just don't have faith in people or nothing, and I'm going to always protect myself. So the way I protect myself is cutting people off. And there's people who've been in my life that I actually forgot was in my life, because when I cut you off, you're done. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I did hang with him for 3 months. I did know her for a couple of days.
He's a couple of days.
You know what?
I cut them off, baby.
You got them clips I sent you?
So what?
You got them clips I sent you?
The who?
The video.
I got the first set. I just saw the second set.
Yeah, I was trying to get them the rest of them in whenever I could.
Yeah, I saw the second set, but I got all the first set.
All right. Hit one of them. Let's see what's on there.
And New Orleans came out. You got them videos I sent you?
You got
that's that name Wardell. That ain't no New Orleans. That's name Wardell. You ready?
Yeah.
It's a hill that you're willing to die on 1,000% of the time. I'll go first.
Whether growing up you face physical abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, whatever from your parents, I feel like there is a common trend, especially among ethnic parents. All the time I see on things like Facebook and Instagram, oh, you need to forgive your parents, which like I can do, but there's one thing that just does not sit right with me. Everybody wants us to work through our trauma and just forgive our parents, but none of the parents want to apologize to the kids. It's like it puts responsibility on one side. Like, sure, as an adult, I can recognize my trauma, work through it, and be a better person. But what responsibility do the parents get? Like, if they're the ones that had a role to play in the trauma, how come they're getting off scot-free? I'm just saying, for the older generation, why are your kids forced to be the bigger person?
And that's what Fred said earlier. And when he said that, I thought you was going to run that particular clip, because Fred said,
I was ready for it, but you was
it's like they never get accountability for how they treated us, you know. And when he said that hit that on the head. And like he said, they just didn't know. Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they were better than what they were. Maybe they treated us better than what they were.
They tried to do that. I do. I think that every generation that comes along tries to do better than the last, right? Because my mama was always talking about how my grandmother, you know, treated her this way and didn't talk to her and all this stuff or whatever, you know. And in her eyes, you know, her older sister, but not Fred's mom, was the golden child, right? So she felt like, oh, she just loved her so much more than the rest of us or whatever, right? And stuff like that. True or not, I don't know. I wasn't there, you know, but she had those feelings. She felt rejected because of the child before her, right? And so she carried that. But since her mama did not connect with that and didn't, you know, scoop her up and say, oh, my little baby, you know, and nurture that and all that, then she decided she was going to talk to me. And one of her stories I remember all the time was when she first started her cycle. And she's like, I'm getting on the bus. And she's 9. She started early. So she's 9. She's getting on the bus. The cycle starts, you know, her pants or whatever. She goes inside. And she said her mama pretty much just threw it a contraption, because it was, you know, a contraption back then. And said, here, it's going to come once a month. Put that on, right? And so because of that, my mama, at 8 years old, my mom was sitting me down at the table. Okay, so let me tell you about your period, you know. And I ain't start till I was 12. So I'm 3 years, you know, no, 4 years or whatever, looking for it, right? But that was her way of trying to correct that thing. You know, I don't want you to feel like you don't have that information. So I'm gonna fix that part, right? The problem there is, you know, Mimi didn't talk to her, but she over talked to me, you know, because one minute she was my friend. The next minute she wasn't. You know, so then there's inconsistency there of, you know, I don't know what I'm walking into. You my friend today, or are you my parent today? Or am I your parent today and I gotta take care of these kids? I don't know which role I'm playing. You know, so that's a whole different level of issue.
And
I
I
think
used
I
to.
find one of the hardest things.
Go ahead.
One of the hardest things that there is being an intentional parent.
Right.
Intentional parenting is extremely hard because you try to not overdo it, and you try not to underdo it, and you trying to find that common place, that safe spot that makes them feel like they're not going to have the type of traumas and things that many of us grew up with and seeing. Because my daughter now, you know, she's probably gonna have it a little bit better than my youngest son.
Right.
You know, so because I saw the mistakes that I made with him and his mother, and I damned if I repeat those same mistakes.
Thank you.
You know, so, and I know that he has some trauma from things that he experienced growing up. You know, he and I had to have a heart-to-heart talk, because he was like, hey, you know, you told me when I was whatever age it was that you'll tell me what happened between you and my mom when I got old enough. So we had to have that talk. And I was completely and totally open with him.
That's cool.
You know, I wasn't going to hide anything. I told him the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, you know, he accepted that and understood. And he was like, Daddy, you know what? I'm not even mad. I said, that's good.
Yeah. Right. And then you honored your word, though. Because I think that's another issue, too. And when you say you're going to do something, do it. You know, follow through, follow up, you know, and don't. And when you can't, you got to say that, too. You know, hey, I apologize. I know I said a thing, but I can't do the thing, you know, and stuff like that. So that honesty is important, too. And you said you would talk to him. And when he asked you talk to him. I remember my mama saying, you know, come talk to me about anything. And when, like, if you're ready to have sex or whatever it is, like, you need to come and talk to me or whatever. Well, I remember being in the kitchen, I was flipping through a magazine that had a birth control ad in there. And I said, Mom, you know, when you think I can get on birth control? If my mama ain't bark at me, what you mean you want birth control? You out here having sex? I'm like, no, I was just asking. You know? I had already had sex. You know, I'm trying to figure out how to tell her.
Right. But you know, Chanel, what you just hit on the head. So raising the kids, because my sister did this, and then she's very rebellious. She hates mom to this day. I didn't think that bothered you guys, but you brought that up a few times tonight.
Yes.
And you got me feeling some type of way, because my brother and I didn't think that should have been a problem. Her ironing our clothes, her watching us while mom gone to work, at the club. But listening to you tonight make me see where I thought she was just being rebellious and just looking for a reason to complain. So that can traumatize.
Yeah.
And because she, every time she get mad, you know, she say, I was the one raising y'all. And I changed diapers and I did this and that, cleaned up and cooked for y'all. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have had a meal. And we used to be looking at her like, I wish she just shut up.
Right.
But
her
listening to you tonight,
she didn't get to just be a regular kid.
Yeah.
Me and Fred talk about it all the time. We always share our stories with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have to stop talking to you. I'm gonna block you.
Ain't that something?
I mean,
I'm so sick of her.
In
my life.
Like perfect example. Like me and my brother, that's my best friend. Like if he called me right now, he lives in Virginia. If he called me right now and say, "Hey, bro, I got some issues," I'm not even asking what the issue is. I'm buying a plane ticket today, right now. I'm gonna say, y'all, I gotta go, and I'm on my way to Virginia. My sister was born. It was us three. I kind of feel like my mom kind of made me take the role of my dad, kind of.
I think so too.
But
I agree with that.
When my sister, like, she worshiped the ground my brother walked on. But kind of like with your sister, that was me. When she used to get an attitude with me and all that kind of stuff, I used to look at her and I felt like a parent with the kids that you was just talking about, talking to me in any old kind of way. I'm like, and I never hated on my brother, but I'm like, you talking about this dude, baby, when you was a kid, this nigga was sneaking out the house.
Right.
With his partner.
He was doing all kind of things.
Well, I'm here cooking for you, feeding you, changing your little skins, diapers, and all of this kind of stuff.
In the street.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, and I had to come back and apologize to her because that day we had that argument. She hit me, and I caught myself, and then she just kept like this all in my face. So I took a phone book. You know, they ancient now. I don't even think called the Yellow Pages. And I smacked her right across the side of her head.
Damn.
So she called my mama. My mama called me. Don't be hitting on my child. Tell your child don't be talking trash to me. Because that's the thing where I felt like we even.
Yeah.
You know, we're even on that. On that point right there, we're even.
Right.
She didn't say nothing back because she might have thought the same thing too. Now I apologized to her. It was like 10 years later, but like I felt disrespected. So I know where your sister's coming from.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure y'all looking at her like, man, shut up. You know what you talking about?
You just doing what every other girl was doing in the neighborhood, taking care of the younger siblings, keeping the house clean, cooking. Because she did it when we thought that's their job. So whenever I meet 13, 14, 15-year-old girls that don't know how to clean up, don't know how to cook, don't iron their clothes, I'm looking at them like, y'all crazy. My sister was doing this at 10 years old.
Right. I have to catch myself even like with my own kids. I'm like, what you mean you don't know that? Like, well, I was making spaghetti when I was 8 from scratch, you know. But I realized like they didn't have that trauma. Like I made their spaghetti. They just, like until they were old enough to truly learn how to cook, they didn't have to do it. They didn't have to fend for themselves, you know, and all that. And I did, you know, and stuff like me and Fred even having these conversations, like that was a norm for us, you know. Yeah. So that wasn't out of the ordinary, you know. Fred the parent in his house, I'm the parent in mine, you know. Both mamas going to work and doing stuff, you know. And even for me, sometimes I have moments. I remember when I was getting my master's degree and I had to do like this genealogy chart or whatever. So you had to go through all the family things and make the connections and the relationships and all that. And I remember I called our brother. I called Brian because I'm trying to gather information, right? Well, I knew my mama had a drug problem. I knew my uncle had a drug problem. You know, my other auntie is gone. So I called Brian. I was like, hey, ain't you ever have any drug issues? You know, I'm just doing this project or whatever. The response of, oh, no, she ain't never had. My heart broke because my mama did, right? And all that. And I'm like, I don't know how auntie survived and not had a drug problem and my mama did, you know, and stuff. And so it brought up all these like icky feelings, right? You know, our other aunt died due to domestic violence, right? And I'm like, was that her escape? And she wound up in a bad situation because this house was so traumatic, right? Because she didn't grow up with that, right? Papa was cool, far as I know, you know, but, you know, and so trying to figure out those family like that hurt because it was such a reminder. And even though you know, me and Fred had the same experiences in childhood and having to take care of our siblings and all that. When my mama was doing drugs and my mama was drinking, right? Because she was depressed, right? And she was working at first, you know, and stuff like that. Fell on hard times and never was able to get up. But ain't she been working this whole time, you know? And so then there became a different level of stuff, right? Like, I understand she working because mine started out that way, but then mine fell off. And I'm still taking care of her kids now because she can't. She can't because of the addiction stuff, right? And the depression and all that stuff or whatever. So then that becomes a whole different dynamic of, you know, if and I know somebody now whose mom was completely neglectful, right? And when you talk to her, she's telling you all this horrible thing about her childhood. And the first thing is, your mom was on drugs. She's like, I wish she was. That would give her a reason or an excuse, right? And so that's how I do when I compare my aunt and my mom, where I'm like, still out there grinding. I get that, you know. Drugging with my uncle, I don't get that. I don't get that, you know. So that is painful, you know. That is traumatic, you know, and stuff. So, you know, like even now, I am so diligent now about not becoming an alcoholic, not using drugs and abusing them and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, if I hit this cabinet 3 times in a row, y'all better say something because I'm using alcohol to cope if I'm doing that, you know, and stuff. So being extra diligent not to fall back into those spaces because I don't want to do that to my kids. That's all there is to it.
You know, one thing that I don't like is when you have a child that is of age, you know, in their 30s or whatever, and then you have the mother that's always saying, well, I took care of you, I did this and I did that for you. Well, you were supposed to.
Oh yeah. And I think I had a clip in there about that too. I hate that.
And you think I'm supposed to respect? Let's talk about all the stuff that you didn't do and how you put me in danger and how you didn't protect me.
Right.
Let's talk about those things. Don't try to make yourself feel good because
for doing your due diligence, what you're supposed to be doing.
Doing what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then at the time that you were supposed to do what you were supposed to do, you didn't do.
Right. Exactly.
So you can't ask me to respect your title when you were never in that role.
You didn't do your role, right? Exactly. You know, and I remember my older daughter, you know, she went no contact with her dad this year and stuff. And that was part of her thing is, and he would call me and, you know, and she did this and she said that or whatever. And I told her she needs to respect, you need to respect me. I'm her daddy. And, you know, because you and me, we changed her diapers. And I'm like, I don't subscribe to that because we were supposed to change her diapers. You know, we are supposed to make sure she's safe. We're like, that's when you have a kid, that's what you do. You know, we don't deserve a prize for that. You know, you earn the respect as they get older by earning that respect, right? Yeah, I'm sure they're glad we did change their diapers and take care of that part. That's cool. But when the emotional needs aren't met, then that's a thing too. Like you said, when those are also needs. Those are also needs. And I think that's another thing that the generation before us didn't understand, needed themselves, but didn't understand exactly what that was, you know, until maybe later on, that there's an emotional, there's a mental respect, like, you know, just like us seeing them as human, again, them seeing us as human, right? If or stuff like you sick and you can't go to the doctor, or you sick and go lay down somewhere. I'm not gonna make sure that you're taken care of. Like those are little things that become traumatic, and then we grow up not taking care of ourselves and not going to the doctor and not, you know, going to work anyway, all right? And we sick as a dog, you know, and stuff like that. That's it's too much.
You know, and we had to get away from that old teaching of if you hug your son or kiss on your son as a man, then you're gonna teach them, you're gonna make them soft, or you're gonna make them, you know, whatever. You know, and we have to get away from that.
Right.
Because you have to show your child, whether it's male or female, that you love them.
Right.
You know,
mine 8, and I kiss him every day. I don't think it's a day since he been on Earth that I don't kiss him somewhere. And he 8 years old every day.
Yeah.
You know, and my son,
and he box. I teach him how to box, so he's not gonna be soft. He's on the punching bag. He's been on the punching bag since he was 6, so he's not gonna be soft. He knows the difference, and when he sees certain things on TV, like the gay acts, he like, ugh. So he knows what's what. So he knows what's a fatherly
that's
love
not what
is.
make him hard or soft, though. That's not what make him hard or soft.
What's not?
And see, and that's another thing we have to get away from, talking about the physical as being, you know, being able
hard.
to do something physically, being able to fight and all those things as making someone hard.
No. I'm just saying he knows his manly side. He knows his masculine side because he's into masculine things.
What if he identified more with his feminine side? Because we all got masculine and feminine energy, right? And what if he was a more gentle
I mean,
person?
that's just him. At the end of the day, he's my son. But right now, he's into, when he played video games, he wants the boxing games. He's Apollo Creeding it. He doing what males do. You know, he wants trains. So, like I say, he's doing his thing now. So, what happens up the road? You know, we can't predict that.
I used to like that stuff too, and I'm a girl. So that's so you're saying what traditional? Because I mean, I was climbing trees and shit, like, you know, hanging out with the boys, playing football, all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know, like I hung out with my first 2 brothers right here, you know, and stuff like that. So I think because that, and I'm mentioning that because that also becomes a parenting issue when there's this expectation of what boy is supposed to do.
The only reason I said that is when he said people think that the kid is going to be soft just because you show them affection. And I was like, nah, he's not nowhere near soft. He's still living his life, even though I kiss him every day, is the point I was making.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, I forgot what point I was about to make, but
my bad.
no, you good. So, I mean, with my youngest son, you know, I talk to him every day, and if maybe one day I'm not talking to him. Well, in fact, yesterday I didn't talk to him because he didn't call me back, and I called him today and told him that I was about to give him up for adoption. But you know, you know,
that's dramatic.
Nah, he already know.
I know, just teasing.
But you know, and still right today, I hug him. You know, when I see him, you know, he stays in, you know, 30 minutes, hour away. But when I see him, I hug him. You know, I make sure that he knows that I love him. And there is nothing that is soft about his emotions. You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about making the kids soft, most of the time they're talking about their emotions and how they act in certain ways in certain situations. You know, his manhood is very intact. So, you know, he feels those traditional roles that what we have deemed as manly. So he is protective. He's protective of his household with his mom. He protects her emotions. I mean, they butt heads every now and then, but you know, that's them. You know, but so we have to get out of that thinking that punching on your kid and not feeding them or making them do PT or whatever it is, that's going to make them hard. No, what it's going to make them is emotionally scarred.
Right. And yeah, standoffish, don't want to connect, and horrible in other relationships. You know, DJ Black, you got another clip?
There were generational curses that bled into my generation when it was time for me to be raised, and things that I'm trying to unlearn and forgive and forget, you know, that are really hard to. And as an adult, you try to be empathetic to your parent because you know that they were only doing what they were taught. You know, so it's a double-edged sword where you're trying to understand, like, I know you were the way you were because of how your parents were to you. And that's all you knew. You were doing the best you could, but now I'm fucked up.
She spoke that to my heart, but now I'm fucked up.
Yeah, and I think it affects a lot of, from what I'm
I
seeing.
froze on that one. So what did she say exactly? My internet froze up for a minute.
Say it again.
No, what was my internet froze up? So the clip froze up on me, so I didn't get to hear what she was saying.
Oh, at the end she said like she understands that, you know, you went through that as a parent, and you didn't know any better and all that, so you try to have empathy for him, but now I'm fucked up. You know?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, all right.
Yeah, she was more like they didn't know. But same thing, kind of what Chanel said earlier. They treat us what they thought was better than what their parents treated them. But at the end of the day, she's still fucked up.
Still fucked up. I mean, thanks for
doing like, wow.
Trying. I appreciate it. I'm not in the trash can, but I am still fucked up, right?
But you know what it is? You try and do better than the next generation. But you're gonna always fall back to what you know.
Right. That's the truth.
You're gonna fall back to what works.
Right.
Somebody might show you a new way to build a house. But if you don't feel like it's working, you're gonna fall back to the way you always built.
What do I have? I have what I already had in my toolbox. Yeah.
So they may have been like with Tyrese. Tyrese the last kid. I got 2 kids from previous relationships. Well, I like what Austin did with his son. I did the same thing with my son and my daughter. I just brought it up because I'm thinking it's got to be on their mind. So we had that conversation.
Yeah.
So with him, I tried to make up for not being there for the other ones. So I said I'm not going to do this with him. It helps that I'm in a perfect relationship now. Well, about as perfect as it's going to get. But 20-something years, I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
But I did. So I'll be the first one to admit, I overdid some stuff with him, and it bit me in the butt when he started getting in like middle school. So I had to correct it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was with the fallback. I fell back on some of the stuff that I knew, and then that's how I knew. I think you said it, or maybe Black might have said it earlier. No, it was Austin, using the old school way of disciplining in this generation.
Right.
That didn't work.
It
didn't work. Like, it didn't work. I had to like learn a whole new way to do that, because this generation is totally different. We didn't have access to nothing. If you didn't have a set of encyclopedias, you didn't know nothing.
You didn't know nothing.
Now they can jump online and they got access to the entire world.
Yeah.
So they're asking questions that we probably wanted to ask, and we can't just be like, because I said so.
Right.
That don't fly. It don't fly anymore. And I think a lot of parents, they just stick to that, because I said so. Because I said so. That worked with us. Because that's the teacher. You do what the teacher say. That's the police officer. You do what he say. That's your mama. You do what she say. You don't question nothing. If she tell you to go run out in traffic, even though you're gonna get hit, go run out in traffic because she said so.
She said go run out in traffic.
They want to know why now.
Yeah.
And honestly, they got every right to want to know why.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, let me tell you why. And then I tell you why, and then so there you got your explanation, and it worked. And I didn't connect with him like I connected with Lil Fred and Shay and Tyrese and Desmond and Erica. I connected with all of them, like I said, with something that only us two could do. So we have that connection. So for Tyrese, me and him is video games and anime. That's our connection.
Okay.
When he comes home on the weekend, I don't watch anything till he get here on Friday. And that's our thing. I'll stop whatever I'm doing on a Saturday. You ready? Yeah. And we sit 2-3 hours sometimes just watching everything.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe we should have asked questions back then, because
if you could, dog, but because now, don't get me wrong, that's another way my mama did do better, because she always allowed us to ask. She allowed us to ask the question why, and if we were in pain in some way, shape, or form, she did let us cry. You know, so we wouldn't. She didn't make us suck it up. But in most households, you can't ask why.
Well, and the reason that I say that is because you have so many things that go on. So it may have prevented some molestation. It may have prevented some abuse. It may have prevented some things, you know, and unfortunately, you know, back then you were taught don't question an adult.
Right.
So if this you had this adult, your whatever it is, your uncle's friend or whatever.
I have to do what the authorities say, and he need me to do this, then I need to do it because I'm not supposed to question him.
Exactly. And then you fear your parents, so you're afraid to take that information to them, you know. So just created some issues.
Exactly.
But like Fred said, my brother ran into that issue. I have a brother that's like 15, close to 20 years older than I am. And his kids and him don't connect. They it's not a connection, because he tried to raise them the way his father raised him. And that was putting something on that butt. 24/7 cursing them out, throwing things at them, talking down to them. But like you said, it's a totally different generation. And so what he told me one time years ago, he said, the best advice I can give you is do not raise your children the way you were raised, because it don't work.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different generation. They're not built the same. They're not made the same. And we have to relearn. You have to learn each child. If you have 3 kids, all 3 of them different.
Yeah.
You have to learn each
different.
individual child and how to deal with each individual one. I mean, and that's what I would tell. We have 3. And I'm like, each one of them totally different. What works on this one don't work on that one. What works on that one don't work on the other one. And I'm like, in my household growing up, an ass whooping was an ass whooping. You knew not to do that. It worked on everybody.
Equal pay.
Right. This new generation, one don't give a damn. You could take all the stuff, you don't care. One, if you take one thing, oh my God, you're taking my phone. No, you know, and it's like they just totally different. And I'm like, so you're right. You have to learn each individual child, and ass whoopings today don't work.
It's a thing of the past.
They're going through enough as it is with school, bullying, social media, making them feel less because they getting they mom buying them a Tesla, and you got to get them a 2018 Camry. So it's just totally different now, and it comes across as unappreciative to us. Because we were that appreciative. Generation X was the appreciative generation. But the new generation the millennials, the new generation, it comes across as disrespect, unappreciative, because but like Fred said, we had to dig through encyclopedias
right, to get
knowledge.
Right. And we
They
usually had
just
the whole
Googled up.
set.
So
we didn't have the
we
first
would
one.
imagine what the rich had,
right,
and we didn't care because we really didn't see.
We didn't see it
We
all
just
now.
heard about what they had.
You knew it was
So
up in the
now
end
on
of
social
the
media, you have lower middle class going broke
right.
to make their child look and feel special, which make the middle class that's content have to step up to make their kid party this, to make their kid gift be that. And it's more, it used to be keeping up with the Joneses. Now it's trying to blend in with them. You know what I'm saying? If for fun keeping up, you got to outdo the Joneses now. You know, now you have to outdo them. We used to keep up with them, and now you got to outdo them. So that's where your suicides, that's where your depression, that's where your mental health. Social media is a good tool for those who know how to use it. And people gets on there and see other people's highlights and go into depression stage. And that's the world we're living in now, raising these children. Raising when you raise them, even if they're 25, if they're 30,
you still raising.
They're going through this social media age.
One thing that I told my son, I was like, I'm not going to buy you a car. I'm not going to do any of that. But what I'm going to do is show you how to get your credit.
Come on, tell them how to build a credit.
Show you how to write a resume, get you a job, and when you go purchase your first car, I'll go with you. But I'm not going to buy it for you. I'm not going to put no down
But I
payment.
gave mine the down payment. I did all of that, and I did the down payment. I didn't co-sign, but I did give him the down payment because his credit wasn't worth a damn, so he owed the down payment. And so the best I could do for you is give you the down payment, and it cost me $2,500, but I gave him the down payment to try to
credit thing, but she just wasn't responsible enough to do that part. So, but I still didn't buy it for her. She just got a high ass car.
I helped my stepdaughter. Let me stop calling her my stepdaughter. We've been hanging over 20 years.
Thank you.
I helped my daughter get her first car. I picked out a nice little car. You make one car payment. Car got retold. Yeah.
See,
My same thing. My wife helped my son get his car. It was a nice car. He wanted to upgrade. He upgraded to a Charger. He didn't tell us nothing. He just decided to do it himself, and he had like a $600 something car note and a bunch of stuff that he didn't need, and he was struggling. So my wife ended up going down there. Let's just say his car note was like $200 cheaper than what it was. The best thing ever happened. Yeah, she don't. And his car got totaled. That was the best thing ever happened to him because he wasn't gonna be able to keep it.
Right. Exactly.
I'm with Austin. I'm not gonna go run out and buy my kids a car. I'm just not. Even if I could, I wouldn't.
And I tell her all the time. I was like, look.
Because you gotta learn the process. Because if I just go out, buy you your Hellcat, when something happened to it, you know what? You coming back to me and you looking for me.
Right, you gonna want me to replace? Yeah, no.
Because that's like me. That's like us living in the woods. Me doing all the fishing and the hunting, and never showing you how to hunt. The day I get the day I get killed by that grizzly bear, it's gonna be your job to go out there and hunt.
I'm a firm believer of teaching them how to fish instead of giving them the fish. I'm a firm believer of that.
Absolutely. What's the next clip we got up in there?
Or you kill your parents for not being an adequate parent to you. understand that it may be because your parents never had adequate examples modeled in front of them. They may not know how to be a loving, supporting, or nurturing mother or father because they never received that themselves. That's a very real possibility, and you have to accept that there's a good chance that there are things that they've been through that you're just unaware of. And those are the things that may be causing the distance, not just between you and them, but between them and everybody else as well. That doesn't excuse their treatment of you, but it's something to think about the next time they act in a way that doesn't meet your standards.
You know, I can understand that to a certain
I thought
extent.
about you when that clip was playing, to be honest with
Yeah, you know, I can understand that to a certain extent, but when you grow up and you start your family, you've seen enough modeling from other people that you can pull from here and pull from there. So I don't think I hugged my mom until I was an adult and she was on her deathbed.
Really?
Yes. So, but I've always made it a point to be affectionate to my kids.
Because you recognize that was something that was needed.
Right. Now, you know, but again, I just pulled from other things that I saw that could possibly work better than what I received.
Right.
You know, and I hate when people use those excuses for messing up, saying that, hey, you know, I didn't receive this when I was little.
And that's why I say I thought about you when that guy was talking, because you took how you was treated and you treat the people around you, your family, your children, totally different than the way you were treated. So some people use that as a crutch per se. And then I look at how me and my nephew / brother was raised. I'm a go-getter, and he depends on mom them because they had money, they spoiled us, but I don't go to them for nothing. I try not to, but he's totally dependent on them. Yeah. So and we grew up in the same house, the same way, you know, so it just depends on that individual, how they received and how it
they adopted him though, right?
Ma'am?
They adopted him though, right? Like he came.
No, he was the biological. Those are the ones I ended up moving in with.
Oh, that's what you ended up at. So yeah. So that's a flip then, because you didn't belong, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't come from them, right? And right. Maybe you had more of a sense of independence because in essence, you know, you were fostered, right? You know, you lost your parents, right? So you are naturally more independent. And since he belonged to them biologically and stuff like that, then he believes he can depend on them, right? But there's some pieces in you, because you were separated from yours, says, I need to take care of myself.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And everybody like, how come you doing this and doing that and being successful, independent, blah, 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 blah. And he's just taking whatever they give him. But coming up the same way, you just never know how those situations affect that other person.
Yeah.
So Austin took his situation, and instead of using it as a crutch, I didn't have this growing up, my mom didn't do this, my dad, da-da-da-da-da. He looked at all of that and said, well, when I'm grown, I'm going to do this. Like he said, he took the good. He knows what a good man, a good parent, a good husband is. So even though he didn't grow up in that environment, he knows how to put it out there. And he goes far and beyond to make sure it's close to perfect as he can get, you know, because he longed for that and he never really got it. You know what I'm saying? So when I heard that guy talking, I'm like, well, Austin took that and did a 360 with it, because he like, okay, mom didn't do this, so I'm gonna do this. Dad wasn't there for that, so I'm gonna be this for mine.
Right.
You know. So
and I often explore and look at, because again, and it's part of what Austin said earlier, that every single child is different, right? And so those temperaments are different, and your resilience level is different, and all of those things. Your birth order matters, you know. And so you could be raised in the exact same environment with the same stuff, but you come out different. You like your one kid will grab some trauma and hold on to it and operate in it, when another child might be like, yeah, I'm not trying to do that, you know.
Yeah, and Austin and his brother.
One child is alcoholic and one child is like anti-alcohol.
That's Austin and his brother. You would never think they were affiliated at all because of how they live and how they think.
Right.
In the same household from birth.
Yeah.
And they just two totally different people, two totally different ways of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Austin chose to get away from the drama. The brother stay in the drama. The brother wants to live exactly how that situation, the toxicity that was in that situation. The brother embraced it. Austin rejected it. And you know, he loved his brother. They like this. I think they talk every day, every other day. They gonna at least talk once a week. And
talk every day.
Yeah.
I would love to see research on like what is it that causes one child to anti this and the one that embraces it. Like what's the difference? I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, because Austin, he just knew what he didn't want. You know, we used to be up 4 and 5 hours at a time, wee hours of the night, expressing feelings and talking. And I knew when he got grown that he was going to be totally different, you know, from what he grew up in. He had never, ever, you know, he didn't want, and it was so bad that he got the house. The house, when she passed, he could have had access. He didn't want nothing dealing with his past at all. He didn't want the vehicle. He didn't want nothing. I'm like, dude, that was a nice vehicle. He didn't want the vehicle. I said, you know what, get to me. But the brother ended up getting it and, you know, embraced it. But yeah, he didn't want no part of that. He hated what he saw. You know?
Well, I mean, the real story behind that, me giving up the house, is because I knew my brother was more attached to it than I was. I have no emotional attachment to anything. So, you know, it was easy for me to say, okay, well, go ahead and take it, or whatever it was.
He gave him everything. He gave his brother everything.
Fred's mom is the last living of that generation. Like her whole household is gone except her. So the house pretty much hers, you know, because the pieces that the rest of us have are severed so thin right now with all the grandkids or whatever and all that. But in essence, she got the majority of it, but she don't want no parts of it.
Yeah, it's just when my uncle was still alive, he moved in. She didn't even fight him, and she said honestly, she like, I don't care what y'all do with that house.
Right.
Like, I mean, she's got to do something with it now, but
right.
It wasn't a big deal. She didn't want she had zero
interest. Now, I mean, she called me right after Mimi passed. She was like, okay, so the house belongs to me and Percy and the three of y'all since your mama passed, right? And she said, I'm thinking we sell it. And I was like, okay, you know, and stuff. So, you know, and like I say, even now she don't want to pause up. And I was asking Fred, I was like, you think your mama sign over her portion to y'all, then all the grandkids will own the house. And then we can decide to do something with it, you know, and stuff like that. But like, yeah, she don't want no parts of none of that at all whatsoever, you know, because I think
I mean, like what Black was talking about with the like the family drama and stuff, I can use my own siblings. Me and my brother, we're a year apart, so we're inseparable. If you see him, He's a little more. I'm jokey. He's a little more jokier than I am. My sister is the total opposite. She actually, as much as my mother doesn't want to admit it, they're carbon copies of each other.
Yeah, carbon copies of each other. Yep.
My mom struggled. You know, she went to nursing school, but she never became an RN. My sister went out of her way to get her RN. We grew up poor. My sister lives above her means.
Yeah.
She'll rent a house that'll cost $2,800 a month, and she really can't afford it. But she don't want to go back to that.
Right.
So even if it means she got to struggle to keep it, that's what she does.
Yeah.
Me, on the other hand, I'm about as simple can get. And my brother's the same way.
Yeah.
Like as long as I come home and I hit the light switch and the lights come on and I done paid all the bills. If I got like $200 left in my pocket, I'm good.
Good. Yeah.
My whole theory on like marriage and family and all of that, I base that off of my grandmother and my grandfather because they were my examples. They was married for over 50 years.
Yeah.
So when I think of what a marriage looks like, it was theirs.
Yeah.
My grandfather went to work, came home, gave my grandmother his check, kept $150 for himself, and that was it.
Yeah.
The only thing he knew how much was the mortgage, and that was only because he had to sign the mortgage papers.
Yep.
He did not know how much the light bill was, the water bill, the gas bill, the insurance, none of that.
Yeah.
He said, that's your grandmother's job. I gave her my money.
And she take care of it.
And he take care of everything else.
Yeah.
I kind of based everything off of that. I will make sure everything, I'll have $25 left in my pocket, but I'm gonna make sure everything else taken care of.
But you make sure it's paid. You don't give your check to your wife, right?
No, she got access to my account. If she won't go in there, she can get it. If she needs extra money, I shoot
But
it down.
it's not
At one time,
your goal to make the money and say, hey, you take care of the finances. You take care of a lot of finances yourself as well.
Yeah, because I learned that was the way he grew up. That back then, I don't think most of Indian men knew how much the bills was in their house.
Right. Yeah.
I want to know just in case. You know, I feel like I need to know so I can make sure it's taken care of.
Right.
I mean, you want to know that the light bill on average is $150. So when a $500 light bill pop up,
you'd be like, whoa, what the hell going on?
Yeah, you want to know why? Because I just want to make sure I don't want my wife and my kids to come home and the lights don't work.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Like with us, I'm the protector of the family. I was told, my grandfather told me, protect your family. When we were growing up, if any of them had an issue, it was me. I was the guy that was always fighting. I was the guy that was, if your boyfriend was giving you issues, I was the one that dealt with that.
My ex-husband almost died, y'all. My ex-husband almost died.
Yeah, husband almost died, but that was me. But I'm still kind of that way till this day.
So going back to the childhood and then talking about the siblings raised in the household and how they turned out different. Now, I did take on some negative things also, even when I tried to, not be like what I saw. So my mom, she was a cheater and she was being physically abused in the marriage also. So I took on the cheating because And it was because that's I can't say that's because of what I saw, but because I could never settle with anyone.
They kind of represent the instability.
Exactly, because I equated that with, well, if I start trying to settle down or be happy, then it could result in this,
right?
And so I never wanted to give anyone that opportunity to treat me like my mother treated. Yeah, or like my mother treated my stepdad.
Okay.
Right. So, but the opposite with my brother, he was the more I'm in love, I'm gonna stick through everything, and whatever happens, I'm still gonna be there. He was more of that.
Okay.
So
that's super interesting how that happens.
Yeah. So, I took on one part and took some positives and again took a couple of negatives here and there. Well, really, that was my only negative that I took from it. But and he took on some negatives and he took on some positives. And that's just how it goes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You see any of those clips that say forgiveness? Did you get one of them in there?
So I hated my father, right? I hated him for a long period in my life because what I went through, what we went through, me and my mother and my sister, from nothing, you know what I'm saying? Living in cars, whatever, right? Being outside, 5, 6 years old, I'm gonna come get you and I'm sitting outside and it's raining and snowing on me, all types of shit. And I refused to go inside. All of those things made me hate him as a person because to me, I was like, I couldn't compute your reasoning why, especially with your own child, right?
It seems intentional.
Yeah, and it is intentional to a degree, right? And I acted on that hatred for him with everybody else. I had that chip on my shoulder for a long time. I was a violent individual. I was an irritable individual. I was a ticking time bomb for every situation. And then to add to it, I watched the toll it took on my mother, who I cared the most for. Her breaking down, crying because she can't physically maintain 3 jobs and go to school and have 2 kids, trying to pick up the slack. So all of those experiences made me hate him. It just literally took a toll on my life. And it took me till I was about 17 years old or 18 years old to really find out what forgiveness was. And to think about it, when you think, like, when I say hatred, like I said to Marie, I understand what it feels like to hate somebody because I tried to harm him a few times. You know what I'm saying? Especially when I was 17 years old and he just wanted to make things right for the first time really ever. And he said, I don't care, you could come and I'll come, and if he punches me, if he harms me, I'm gonna just take it because I deserve it. That's what he said, And for me, it was like, at that point, and I told him, I was like, well, tell him I'm on my way. And that was my intention. I'm going to hurt this man. Right? And I really could beat up my father. Like, you know what I'm saying? But once he didn't show up as usual. And
when he put it out there for you to come beat him up?
Yeah, so he can kind of just sever. And he didn't show up as usual, but I didn't have any expectations or any other expectations. He's been dodging my whole life. But at that moment is when I realized, I'm like, I was at my grandmother's house. I love my grandmother to death. I was in a peaceful state because he called and he said he wanted to take this on and I can unleash all my rage on him. I left a peaceful state for a chaotic state. And that's when I realized how controlling my hatred was. And so at that point in time, I really made a conscious decision. I was like, I have to figure out how to let it go. I do think, and you can ask, like, does it stem from love? No, because I don't think I really ever fully loved my dad. He wasn't there enough for me to love my dad. You get me?
Well, could it still be love in that there was an expectation?
Listen to that clip. I have every reason in the world to be bitter, upset, unsuccessful individual. And unfortunately people use those type of things for pitfalls in their lives, but they're the actual creators of those pitfalls.
Right.
you know, and until we start taking responsibility, yeah, I mean, I had an effed up childhood, but that doesn't mean that I have to be that way.
Right. And I think that that's the healing part. I think that, you know, that I think even Nasara was trying to get to when she was making, you know, the original post is that, you know, we have to heal from like, you know, yes, they had their responsibility. Yeah, they could apologize, they could not apologize. But at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to heal ourselves. It's our responsibility, you know, to seek the help necessary to let go of that, right? Like he said, he left a peaceful state to go start some stuff to unleash rage about his anger that he had with his dad just not being there. And so he was sitting in that negative energy, stewing in it and all that, and he was willing to leave peace, you know, and we can't be willing to give up our peace for the sake of that. And that means if you got to love somebody from afar, if you got to set the boundary necessary so that you're not getting hurt, you know, if they're making the effort and try, by all means, you should be trying, you know, like receiving that. But still, like, I mean, I stopped talking to my mama for 2 years, you know what I'm saying? Because she couldn't stop calling me bitches and hoes and, you know, talking bad about my mate and all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, I'm just not going to talk to you then, you know? But she wanted the relationship enough to come back and say, yo, I'm sorry, and I'm going to work on that, right? Was she good at working on that? You know, but then it was my job at that point to set boundaries. So I stopped telling her all of my business. If you're going to talk bad about myself, I'm going to stop telling you all my business. You're going to get the surface, right? You know, so it's going to be limited amount of information I'm going to give you. I'm going to respect and accept that this is who and how you are. You know, borrow my car, Mama. I'm sorry, you're going to get mad, whatever it is, but you're drunk and you can't borrow my car. That's too bad, you know. So being able to stand up and set those boundaries and say you're going to respect me as an adult, you know, and work on, and I had to continue to work on myself. And as those issues came up, and usually in relationships they come up and all that, as they came up, I had to work on them. You know, I had to heal that part of myself so that I could be a productive adult. And like I said, even when I was scrolling through this stuff or whatever, some of that stuff came back up and all that, but it didn't destroy me. It wasn't like, oh, woe is me, I can't function, I can't do the show tonight because, you know, no, I processed it, I talked about it, and I'm still okay, you know, and I'm gonna continue to be successful and work toward doing big things, you know, and all that. My due diligence, even as a therapist, is, you know, to help heal those things, you know, in our community that come from all the junk, right? You know, and so maybe, you know, being able to help somebody heal can make this next generation even better, right? And stuff like that. Because again, like we said, each generation should be doing better than the one before them, but you can't carry that stuff forward. You do not have the right to be an asshole. You do not have the right to injure other people just because you was injured. Like, heal that thing and try to, you know, move forward and progress. That's the goal.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's all I got for tonight. Be honest with you, you know, that sound like my closing remarks.
Well, you know, that was some great closing remarks as usual.
You know, and stuff. Anybody else got some closing remarks so we can roll out?
You know, my thing is, whatever happened to you in childhood, you can overcome those things. Use that as your motivator, not your inhibitor. So find ways to grow above what your traumas were. But you do need to get help with that if you're unable to do it yourself. You need to find someone to assist you in processing through those things that continue to be inhibitors for you, and allow them to help you manufacture a way to make those things your motivation to do better, to be better.
Thanks, Austin. That was fire.
And I I agree, and I'm gonna piggyback off what Austin said. If it's altering your life, what happened in your past, especially with your parents, and you're 20, 30 years past your parents, out the house, living your life, and it's still affecting how you live, because I went through it and still go through it in my relationships because of the behavior of mom. There's certain things I'm looking for in a woman that I date, and I ran off tons of them. And I didn't really know that until meeting Charnel. And people say I praise, but I'm not really praising her. But it's just that I'm so set in my ways, and to find a person who could actually make me think you're the problem is that, and that was more devastating. And when she first pointed it out that I was the problem, I really could care less if she came back on here or not, to be honest with you. And I didn't reach out to her for about 2 weeks, and then she hit me up and said, "Hey, what we talking about this week?"
Yeah.
And because I wasn't used to no one indirectly, she didn't come at me. It was a subliminal, indirect approach.
See, people think no bullshit means that super direct, but it's that.
It was that. And so when she made me see things, that's when I started believing in therapy, because I don't believe in therapy. You know your problem.
I don't even know why he invited me on here.
You know your problem. So why we got to go talk to somebody else, putting them in our business? I know where I'm wrong. You know where you wrong. And we going to straighten this out. You going to do right, and I'm going to work on what I'm doing. And that was my, whole therapy concept.
I'm so proud of you for inviting me on here the first time.
Yeah, and then we messed around and we had to do a one-on-one. I couldn't piggyback off nobody else.
It was just me and
it was just she and I, and she just ripped me apart that particular episode. And then when she did come back, because I was mad for a while, and then that madness turned into embracing, because she made me see a side of me, and my relationship got much better. And I've been in my relationship for about 12 years. We've been married since 2017. Well, we met in 2012. And when I tell you I was hell up until, the reason I married her is because she tolerated my BS. And I was like, if anybody can tolerate me for 5 years and all they want is marriage, I'll give her that, you know. But I still had my, what they would call asshole-ish ways. And the last 2 years, she's seeing the change, my attitude, my whole outlook on everything, because I held on to what I saw growing up and the way I was treated, watching mom, watching dad. And when I became into adulthood and started trying to seriously date, I messed up. I mean, and like Austin said, it's the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, mom, somebody knocked on the door for dad. Mom didn't open the door. They had to put it under the barbecue pit, leave it by the side of the door, and when they leave and she see their car going up the road, she opened the door and get it. I wasn't used to a woman answering the door when a man knock on the door and I ain't there. Mm-hmm. Even though he dropping something out. I don't believe in that. You know what I'm saying? So when I would see that, it was an instant deal breaker, which I learned is deal breaker now. But it was an instant deal breaker. No, you let another man come in the home and drop something off while I wasn't there. All you had to do was tell him he's not here through the door, come back. Because that's what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
I don't date club hoppers because mom went to the club and it caused problems with dad. Mm-hmm. So any woman that's a regular at the club will mingle, will interact. But as far as you being my person of choice to seriously date, no. and you know, and it took talking to Chanel to make me see that a lot of the things that mom and dad went through doesn't necessarily mean who I meet, I'm gonna go through it. I
Right.
want to prevent it because I'm like, and I just ran away from so many. And so she made it so if you have the daddy mama trauma and you're 20, 30 plus years out of your parents' home, you really need to seek some type of therapy, even if it's 5 sessions, just to get back to who you are. She made me realize who I am. And that what they went through was their issue. That don't mean I'm gonna go through it.
Yeah.
Times are different, who I meet is different, you know, and I didn't see that. All I saw was mom and dad, and she go to the club. Oh, that's a wrap. She let somebody drop some DVDs off at the house, and I wasn't there. She opened the door and took the DVDs. I can't talk to her.
Right.
So you know, I was very, very real messed up.
Right.
So I'm just now coming into living because I'm letting so many things go. It's like it ain't even worth even thinking about it. She made me realize
choices out of that junk.
Yeah. Myself, I realized my self-worth. You know, yeah, and that was the key thing. I always know my worth, but she made me know my worth in my relationship. Because I'm this, I'm that, I'm da. But I ain't gotta be sitting there worrying about everything mama did and she ain't doing. Because she ain't mama.
No, she not mama.
She not mama. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And everybody different. But that's where communication comes in at. That's where the communication. And she said you just have to talk. It's communication. And a lot of times you have to have that communication before you come into a deep relationship. And so if you're going through the daddy mama trauma, which I feel like
everybody
is majority of us. Yeah.
Everybody.
I feel like it's majority of us because
very few will not.
I realized that, like I say on here, that a lot of my actions was because of my childhood. And we all go through it. We just don't want to face it because I wasn't looking to face it. I was set in my ways. It is what it is. If you don't like it, I keep a revolving door. Anytime you want to leave, you can. Because I'm not expecting nobody to stay because of what I saw in the past.
Yeah.
So on the daddy mama trauma, if it's still affecting your life, your relationships, book you a therapist, do at least 4 to 5 sessions to learn to get to know yourself. And once you get that knowledge of self, and that's like I preach, that self-love, some of you need that to get back on track. You know what I'm saying? So that's my thought on the daddy mama trauma.
Empowerment.com is available. But it don't have to be me. You need help finding somebody else? We can find something. You gotta find a good fit.
Yeah.
Big Fred, what's your last remarks?
My last remarks, one, anybody out there listening, admit that you got issues. Our big problem as people, not just people of color and just people in general, it's easy to lie to yourself and say that you don't have any issues because as a person, you want everything to be okay.
Yeah.
So, this ain't that serious. No, this ain't had nothing to do with when I was growing up. And every time my mom walked in the door, she turned around and walked out and went to the club. But it does. You got to admit that first. You'll never be able to go to a Chanel or Tom therapist until you first admit that you've got problems, you've got issues. For me, the second thing I would say would be just be honest. I mean, going back to something Black said earlier when he was talking about the standoffish, fuck it attitude. I had that attitude. I carried that attitude into adulthood to the point to where if a relationship looked like it was going to be an issue, I was throwing you out my house like I was Martin. You had to go because I didn't want to deal with the drama. You know, I watched my mom in abusive relationships. She told us, you know, don't put up with no bullshit from nobody. If it looked like it's going to be an issue, just go. Let them go.
Nip it in the bud.
If it looked like
Fred
it
and
was
his
going to
brother,
be an issue,
they put one of them women out the state. They told her get out of Louisiana.
you had to go.
Fred
I
sound like
had-
he's akin to me.
I had a reputation. Chanel can verify this. If my brother was here, he could. I had a reputation. The moment you looked like it was going to be an issue, you would go to work in the morning. You'd come home that evening. I was gone.
He was gone.
What I told you I did, Chanel, I did just that.
Yep.
Disappeared.
I moved to a whole different city in one relationship with my third oldest son. We were going back and forth, and we was fighting, and I'm like, I don't want to be in no relationship where I gotta fight.
Right.
I went and got an apartment. As soon as everything was ready, she went to work. I threw all my clothes in the car. When she called me looking for me, I was like, I live in Richmond, Virginia now, because I don't want to be in a relationship where we got to be fighting all the time. Just go. That was the reputation. Our whole family do that. And that was the running joke with me.
Oh yeah, it was.
And
yeah.
I told her that on one of the podcasts, on one of them episodes, I did just that. And she say, where you at? You know, so where you at? I say, I'm far away from you.
Right.
I'm away from you. That's all that matters. It don't matter where I'm staying, where I'm at. I'm away from you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, many men don't do that though, and when they do that, they run back. But like I say, that's a different. That's another episode.
And I never ran back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never
Once he
ran
was done,
back.
he was done.
But I had to admit, and I think that a part of that was seek some kind of help. Seek some kind of help. My help came when I joined the military. I got to meet a million different people. And the guy that trained me to be a career counselor to talk with other soldiers, or I ended up having to talk with other soldiers through their issues and concerns and, you know, why, you know, because a lot of guys, when they join the military, that's their first time away from home. So they're depressed. They need somebody to talk to. I was that guy. And never forget it. Guy's named Staff Sergeant Johnson. He told me, you are running away from relationships. You need to stay. You done probably left 2 or 3 people that are probably the best people in your life, and you just threw them away because of something that your mama told you years ago. I loved him. White guy, but he was about as straightforward gets. And I had to admit it. That's where the first part come at. Admit that you got a problem. I had to admit it. Yeah, that came from Mona. When she saw issues, you was done. You was done. And I didn't even hesitate. I don't even think I gave him a second chance. It was just over.
Like, nope, that's
Yeah. And just try and be the best version of you that you can be. If you can, I think if you can do that, that helps a lot with a lot of trauma, a lot of just stress, a lot of everything. I mean, what you see now, this is me all the time.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna put on a facade of, you'll never see me acting like I'm somebody else because I'm trying to do something. If you're generally yourself and comfortable in your own skin, you can you can admit a lot of your faults, which is what a lot of people don't do. They don't like to admit their faults. So then that makes it easier for you to go out, seek help, find out what your issues are, and then tackle them for real. And you never know, somewhere down the line, you might be able to help somebody else.
And almost every time you will. Yeah, you know, when you help somebody else here, you heal yourself. You know, so Thank y'all for coming. We lay it
Hey,
down
this
like
was
we
fun,
always
man.
do. You know what I'm saying? So, mental health is necessary to talk about, and we're gonna keep talking about it and breaking stigmas and breaking barriers and getting our people healed. That's all there is to it. So we spoke on it like we do.
I enjoyed it. Appreciate you,
This was
Fred.
fun, man. Oh, hey, man, no problem. We can do this again.
Now you did your thing. You were relaxed. You took over. You did your thing. Yeah, you flowed
Thanks for
tonight.
giving me the space. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you flowed and you
She
shot,
boss.
and
She
I
like being
enjoyed
a
it.
boss. She like being in charge.
So, man, you got me looking forward
And it got me
to the
excited
next one.
about my own podcast, getting that back on roll and all that kind of stuff. So, the FTBS podcast gonna be back soon. And we might start with this kind of conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this was deep.
Yeah.
This was deep. So, like she said, we spoke on it. We out same time next week. It's going down. We're gonna be same channel, same time, right here. I'm gonna come with some news, and then we're gonna break it down and get into what I say the modern day dating issues. We're gonna touch up on things that's going on with modern versus what we used to go through back in the gap. But
I'll definitely be checking that one out.
until then, we out because we be shining that wisdom. Till next week, we out of here. Peace.
Area
4. Women do what you allow them to do, and vice versa with the women. A man gonna do what you allow him to do, and if you don't know your worth, you'll put up with that bullshit. But when you know your worth and you know you don't have to put up with it, you ain't gonna put up with it.
The girl was like, well, if I decide I want to wear a string bikini, to the beach and all that, I don't deserve to be harassed. And if you got a problem with that as my man, that's a problem. He was like, look, I'm not, like, you shouldn't be harassed. You're right. You shouldn't be harassed. However, they got creeps out there. Period. There are creeps out there. And so you have to be mindful. He's like, I'm not worried about my woman per se. She fine and she putting it out. Okay, cool. However, they gonna have somebody that's gonna disrespect that boundary. They gonna have somebody that's gonna do something to handle because they don't have the respect.
Right.
That's who I'm looking out for. That's who I'm afraid of you attracting, right? And stuff. And so that's real talk. Like, you're going to attract the creeps with that. A woman is tight because she's nervous. It's a muscle. So if I'm nervous and I'm not comfortable, then it's gonna be tight. That don't mean necessarily that it was just
preach my thumbnail, cause when you're loosing like that, you wanna know what we doing? We getting ready to orgasm. It's called bottoming out. We're letting that bottom drop so you can hit what we need you to hit, so we can get what we want. If you notice, every time before the orgasm, it goes loose. Pay attention. Before her orgasm, not your orgasm is tight because she's working for you. Her orgasm is loose every time. She don't squeeze during the orgasm. She squeezes after the orgasm because she's trying to stop it. It's a reflex after. And I'm sorry, y'all not moving, shaking. I got the phone in my hand. That's how I keep my glasses. That's how it works.
There are some decent women out there that may have kids that are able to hold it down for themselves and still be able to accept a man into their lives in a man role. So
see, the thing is, when you just say you be the woman that's holding it down by herself, this is the problem right here. In today, in the 21st century, a lot of women, they don't want to have no damn discipline. They don't want no man to come in and tell them what to do. They don't want to follow no rules. They want to sit there and say they want a strong man. As soon as that man show up and start trying to lay down structure and foundation, they flee. Oh, you trying to boss me around. You trying to tell me what to do. All this nonsense. You want me to be submissive. I ain't no slave.
No, Rick,
all this goofy shit.
You narcissistic. That's the new word.
Yeah, that or toxic masculinity. All these other shaming tactics they got trying to do.